Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about lean logistics. My name is Jamak Golshani. I am going to be your host today. We're just going to wait a few minutes for some more of our friends are joining online. In the meantime, if you'd like, to your right-hand side, you should see a chat box. Go ahead and type where you're from, and if you represent a company, type the name of the company as well. We'll get started in a few minutes here. Just to make sure everybody can hear my voice, if you can hear my voice, go ahead and put a yes or a Y or something in there. Thank you. Great. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started very soon. We have the privilege of having Mr. Mogarei, the co-founder and CEO of Get Kaizen, with us. Sorry about that. If you could go ahead and turn off your ringers so that doesn't happen and you don't get distracted with telephone. If you're on Facebook, shut down Facebook, Skype, anything that might take your attention away. It's only an hour or so, and we'd love for your attention to be with us today. Okay, it's 2:05. I think we can go ahead and get started. Mr. Mogarei, are you on the line with me?
Yes, I am.
Well, we have some great guests here. I know we went through, and some people may have listened to all 4 episodes of the podcast that we did together, and some may have missed some of them. Could you get started by just introducing yourself just briefly, and then, if possible, give us an overview of what we're going to be doing today?
Surely. Greetings, everyone. I hope all is well. It's 2:06 over here in sunny California, and thank you for joining us. My name is Hormoz Mogarei, and I am the CEO of Get Kaizen Incorporated in Northern California. Get Kaizen is a training and consulting firm specializing in lean production and lean management. Now, the webinar that we have prepared for you is of quite importance because lean logistic is something that all companies must learn and must implement in order to stay in business. As a result of global economy, nowadays we are dealing with corporations and individuals across the globe, which wasn't anything that we could think about a few decades ago. So as a result, if our logistics are not up to par, we will not be able to survive in this kind of climate and business climate. So that's the importance of it, and we're gonna go over the details of how excellent organizations do the lean logistics, and I also have a case study for you, which we did a few years back. I'm going to go over that one as well.
Okay, as we get started here, I see that we have people from various industries on the webinar today. Could you, again, I know you touched on this during the podcast, but if you could just, some people might have the impression that this is Kaizen and lean logistics is only appropriate for a certain industry or companies of certain sizes. Could you go over that a little bit and if what what type of person, what type of company would this information be good for?
Sure. The case study that I have is for manufacturing companies, an automotive company in Northern California, actually. However, majority of my examples are from non-manufacturing, anywhere from dentist office to burger place to bank or post office. And I try to use variety of examples to make sure that we cover most everybody, because logistics is something that occurs to all businesses. If you have any kind of activities within or outside your organization, you are dealing with logistics.
Fantastic. Let's get started and dive into the material. For the audience, if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and use the chat box that you just used to type your questions, and either periodically we'll stop and answer questions if the questions apply directly to the topic that Hormoz is discussing, or if not, we'll just wait towards the end of the webinar and we'll go through the questions. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr. McGarry.
if they have questions and you see the question is pertinent to what I'm discussing, it will be most prudent to stop and answer it before we go off too far.
Absolutely, I'll be watching the chat box.
The first thing that I'd like to talk about is process thinking, because if you are process oriented and you look at everything as a process with a beginning, a middle, and the end, which is the deliverable, then you can improve every segment of it. Our friend Dr. Deming says that if you cannot describe what you do as a process, then chances are good that you don't know what you're doing. If you are not process oriented, if you don't know exactly what your organization is doing, doesn't matter, it's service organization or manufacturing, if you don't know how the paperwork is compiled, if you don't know how the part is being manufactured or assembled, then chances are good that you don't know what you are doing, and you are at the mercy of those who do. So based on this, we will talk about process and process improvement, but let's do some of the definitions. These are perhaps the simplistic view without going through the mumbo jumbo of defining logistic. Logistic is all the operations and all the processes that are necessary to deliver finished goods or services to the customers, except the very making of the goods or performing the services. So if you take that part out, if you factor out the assembly, the manufacturing, the compilation of the information, then everything else left is called logistics. Now, we're talking about lean logistics. Lean simply means that you should use the least amount of resources doing the logistics. Now, I am sure you have come to understand that lean applies to all industries. We got lean accounting, lean healthcare, lean offices, lean manufacturing, lean banking. So really anything that has to do with logistics, if you do it with least amount of resources used, then that is called lean logistics. There are 5 principles to lean logistics. One is value. You should be value oriented, and we will go in details when we discuss every one of them individually. The second one, you need to conduct value stream mapping. This is an analysis of the entire organization. This is to allow you to put your fingers on the pulse of the organization to gauge what the health of your company is. Number 3 is a 4-letter word in logistics. I know that you're going to be busy thinking about this until the next slide. Number 4 is a pull system or demand flow technology. DFT is a fancy phrase for pull system, and we will explain that in detail as well. And number 5, you need to strive for excellence or perfection. However, you have to do it through continuous improvement, because there is not such a thing as perfection. Everything can be improved upon, but you always strive in that direction. So these are basically the 5 principles. Value, the definition of value, the definition that I like, is something that the customer is willing to pay for. Now, underline willing, because if the customer does not want to pay for it, and you force the customer for whatever situation you may create for him or her, the next go around, the customer will not deal with you, will not do any business with you. So the customer should always be willing to pay for the value that you create and you deliver. The second bullet under value says that you don't decide what the value is. Only the market and the customers decide. If they decide what you are doing is valuable, they will pay for it. And if the decision is that what you do is not valuable to the marketplace, to the customer, even though you are incurring a lot of cost and fees, will not be materializing any kind of profit or benefit for you. So you have to understand that you don't determine the value, the customer or the marketplace does. Value stream mapping is an exercise, an analysis, an assessment that you do around the entire organization, and that is you map every process that you have within your company. And then, of course, when you come up with improvement ideas, you come up with the bottlenecks, you question everything, then you have to go through the feasibility exercise, and that what is feasible for you to improve. So first two things is value orientation. As far as the feasibility for improvement, you have to ask these 6 questions. Are they economically feasible? These improvements that you are about to embark upon, are they economically feasible? Are they operationally possible? You may not have the operational parameters to allow you to do it. Are they technically possible in your organization? How does it look schedule-wise? And what's going to happen to the legal and contractual agreements that you have? It could be the regulatory compliance. And the last one is it politically correct? And by political, I really mean office politics. You got to make sure that once you implement these Kaizen projects, there are no hard feelings in the other departments. Because the key in lean is not efficiency, even though lean means efficient, but the pre-assumption is that you are first effective before you become efficient. So if you got some political issues within your office, you will not be able to become effective as a result of this Kaizen, even though your idea may be quite valuable. This is a graphics of value stream map between a customer and supplier. As you see, it's quite detailed. On the right-hand side, top right of the page, you see that the state street assembly company, which is the customer, is sending the orders and sending the forecast to the supplier. The orders are going at the rate of once a day, daily orders. The forecast is 30, 60, or 90-day forecast that goes to the production control. Production control sends it to the Michigan Steel Company, sends the forecast and also a weekly fax, which is more like the firm order. Now you got a forecast for 6 weeks and then you turn it into a firm order, excuse me, and you send it to them as a weekly fax. Then that turns around the coils, it goes to the manufacturer on Tuesdays and Thursdays by truck. The little triangle that you see with a little letter I inside means inventory. We got coils for 5 days, inventory before stamping. We got 4,600 units of left hand and 2,400 units of right hand between stamping and sonic weld number 1, and so forth and so on. Now, if you will, please go underneath the stamping, look at those boxes that I have over there, those sections. As you see, the stamping is 200 ton, which is important when you do value stream mapping. You want to get as much pertinent details as possible. The cycle time is 1 second. Changeover time is 1 hour. When you see changeover time 1 hour, your antenna should go up because you got your work cut out for you. 1 hour is a long time for changeover. The uptime of the machine is 85%, which means your machine experiences downtime 15% of the time, which is a big number. And if you are wondering where your profit goes, that's one of the places. You have 7.5 hours, which is equivalent to 27,000 seconds, which means that you are operating only one shift. 27,000 seconds is one shift. Then for the weld and weld number 2, assembly number 1, you got all those information plus other questions that you may be asking. Underneath all those, I got the size of the inventory, 5 days, and the cycle time per process. 1 second for stamping. Then you got 7.6. I'm moving from the left of the screen to the right. Then for inventory of 4,600 left and 2,400 right, you got 7.6 days worth of inventory. Then you move to the right, 38 second cycle time, 1.8 days, and so forth and so on. So the value added time is 184 seconds, which is accumulation of all the cycle times in the box in the lower right-hand corner. And then the production lead time is 23 days, which is the accumulation of all the inventories that you have between. And then, of course, when the product is going out of the assembly number 2, it goes to shipping. It goes to staging first, then it goes to shipping. Some people do inspection before it goes out. Some people do the inspection throughout the assembly or throughout the process. And once a day, the truck goes to the customer. And they deliver, the truck delivers 18,000 pieces per month, which is 12,000 left hand and 6,400 right, and so forth and so on, which is the detail of everything that you observe and ask questions while you do value stream mapping. Now let's go to the word which has occupied your mind so far, the 4-letter word in logistics. Starts with an F, and the word is nothing but flow. Of course, flow is the most important work in any kind of process. And flow comprises of three different types. One is flow of people. Normally, when I go to any organization, before I do assessment, I just stand there at the gemba, and gemba is a Japanese word which means the shop floor, the real place where the value is created. So I go to the gemba and I just stand there for maybe 15 minutes or so and watch how people are interacting with one another. What is the flow of people? People have to jump through the hoops to get the job done. And then I know that that is one of the areas that I need to fix. The second area that flow applies to is flow of materials. How do they bring the material from raw form to work in process to finished good inventory? Where are the storages? How do they bring them down? Do they use forklift, or do they use pallet jacks, or do they carry it by cart? How is it happening? And the last one is flow of information. How would the team leader inform the supervisor of part shortage? How does the material handler know that there is a quality issue? How does the maintenance gets informed about the machine breakdown, and etc. So these are the three types of flow that we have in any kind of process place. And the next item was pull system. And we need to make sure that we allow the customer to pull from us versus we push what we think the customer would want. Pull system basically means what the customer wants, producing what the customer wants, when the customer wants it, and at the quantities that the customer wants. So it's very important that we know that and we observe it. So we allow a customer to get what he or she wants, when he or she wants it, at the quantity that he or she wants it. The benefit will be that the inventory will be minimized, warehousing will be minimized. You really don't need to have a warehouse if we schedule the production correctly and if we have the capacity and the systems within our production. And then another fancy name for pull system is DFT, or demand flow technology, which simply says that our flow and our production is based on the demand of the customer. Continuous improvement, or Kaizen, is the last principle of 5 principles that I mentioned. Kaizen is a Japanese word, which is a combination of Kai and Zen. Kai means change, Zen means good. Change is good. Change for the better, or continuous improvement, incrementally and on a regular basis. After you implement Kaizen projects, then you need to do the Hansei, or the lessons learned, or reflection. Doesn't matter the project is successful or unsuccessful, you still have to do the Hansei. And then you share the knowledge with other departments and everybody else who could be the stakeholder in this particular enterprise, which is called the Yokoten. And Yokoten is a formal way that you will go and make a report to the stakeholders about the knowledge that you have gained as a result of doing this continuous improvement project. And by the way, Kaizen projects are supposed to happen on a regular basis. So every day you should have a list of items that you can improve upon. And perhaps every month and a half or 2 months, you should do a Jishuken, which is a concentrated form of Kaizen, which requires only the experienced people to get involved and do the Kaizen for bigger benefits. It would not be incremental benefits anymore. It would be bigger benefits. But I used to do it when I worked for Toyota and Toyota subsidiaries. I used to do it at the rate of once every 3 months. It's time consuming. It takes about 3 to 5 days of almost non-stop work. However, the benefits will surpass the energy and efforts that you put in. This is something by Tom Peters, and attracted my attention because it's right up our alleys. It simply says that excellent organizations, in order to be excellent, they don't pursue excellence. However, they pursue continuous improvement incrementally. What it means to us is simply that we should not be thinking of breakthroughs all the time. Breakthroughs will be byproduct of Kaizenization or continuous improvement. And if we ingrain Kaizen into our system, then breakthroughs will be the automatic part. We got different types of logistics, something that happens within your organization or inbound, and the other one outside your organization or outbound. Inbound could be dock to dock, or it could be dock to stock, and then you replenish the stock or you pull from the stock. Or it could be sequencing or kitting. Outbound, it could be milk run. The picture that you see on the right-hand side of the screen shows the milk run. At different hours, the truck goes around and collects a little bit of everything that different companies or different departments have. This could be a trolley within your organization, or it could be a truck outside your organization. But the whole idea is that, number one, you don't bring a full truck load of one item, because then you are accumulating inventory unnecessarily. And number two, you don't air ship. You don't ship air to the organization, meaning that you don't pay for truckload unnecessarily when it only has one pallet in it. So that's a benefit of the milk run. Sometimes you can go the supplier managed load. It means that supplier delivers small batches or small size of inventory to you without you being involved. And when I was in Japan, the example of outbound logistics was very clearly shown in Toyota-shi. Shi means city in Japanese. In Japan, there is a city called Toyota City, and Toyota City was perhaps one of the first places that Toyota established the first factories, or one of the first factories. And all the suppliers were within radius of 5 miles around Toyota. And the purpose of that was that, number one, Toyota would not carry any excess inventory, and number two, if there were any abnormalities, everything would be taken care of within 5 minutes or less. So this is different. These are different types of logistics. But there are different elements that you should know about logistics when we are talking about logistics. One is cycle time, the other one is lead time, and the third one is takt time. So let me go over the simpler ones first. Cycle time is the actual time that it takes you to produce a unit or to complete the cycle. So cycle time is something that I can go and use my stopwatch and find out exactly how much time it takes for you to complete a cycle. Lead time is a total time between two different processes, or the total lead time could be the time between when the customer places the order, until the time that the same customer receives the order which was placed. And that is called lead time, and I will show you graphically in the next slide. And takt time is a little more difficult or more complex. Number one, takt time is something that the customer dictates to you. So as a result, it's not a time, it's a rate, is a customer's demand or customer's pull rate. Simply says, the customer says that I want this product or service performed or delivered to me every 15 minutes. That becomes the rate that the customer pulls from you. The origin of the word is from Germany. It's a German word, Taktzeit. However, it means rhythm or meter, something that it will guide the operation. It's like, if example I want to give you, at the parade, you see how nicely everybody moves and they are very much synchronized. The reason they can be so closely synchronized, one, they practice, and two, they are moving their hands and feet with the tact, which is a drum beat. And we hear the drum beat, but we just think that is for show. However, it is for them to synchronize their movements regularly. So takt time becomes a customer pull rate. Other elements or concepts that we have to be aware of: capacity is the total amount that you can produce within the allotted time. Bottleneck is the longest cycle time in your operation, is the place that does not allow you to flow smoothly, is the place that hinders you from fulfilling your potential as far as the time is concerned. Throughput time, how long this takes for you to push the part throughout your process or carry the part through your process. Production rate, how often can you produce a part versus how often the customer pulls your part, which is the consumption rate. So you need to make sure that if it takes you, the example, the McDonald's that we have over there, if it takes you a minute and a half to produce a burger and you have customers every 30 seconds requiring a burger, you need to have 3 people over there so they can give it to the customer every 30 seconds versus minute and a half, which is 3 times as what the customer's pull rate is. Waiting time model is the amount of time that either the customer or the next operation is waiting inside the queue, and I will give you examples of that. And multiple server queuing model is another one that we see around us when we go to different places, and I have a graphic example of that one as well. Jamak, would you give me an idea if there are any questions so far?
There are no questions at the moment, sir.
Very well. Let's go to the next slide. And next slide is bottleneck. Bottleneck, as I mentioned, is the slowest process within the value stream, which simply means that this is the smallest throughput rate, which in turn has the longest cycle time. The remedy for bottleneck is Heijunka. Heijunka simply means levelizing the production or levelizing the pull or levelizing the ordering. So it comes with a rhythm that is easily digestible for production. So basically, you levelize the throughput across the production line. So if you have 3 different processes, process A, which can produce 10 units per hour, process B, at the current time, has a capacity of 15 units per hour, and process C has a capacity of 6 units per hour. What we want to know is which one is the bottleneck. Or first, what we have to do is come up with the cycle time, because we said that the longest cycle time, by definition, is a bottleneck. Cycle time of first one is 60 minutes divided by 10 units per hour is 6 minutes per unit. So the cycle time becomes 6 minutes. Next one is 60 divided by 15, 4 minutes cycle time. And the last one is 10 minutes cycle time. So now immediately, because of the way that we define bottleneck, longest cycle time, you can tell between among these 3 processes, process C with a cycle time of 10 minutes is the bottleneck. This is the bottleneck that we have. As a result, there are wait time created, and the wait time, number 1, is between process A and B. because process B is always faster than process A, so process B will have to wait for process A to give any part to him or her. So that is a big muda. Muda is another Japanese word which means waste, for process B to continue to work. Process B cannot simply do anything if process A doesn't give him the part. Another wait time is for the customer. At the end of the process, if you have the cycle time of 10 minutes, the customer has to wait for the minimum of 10 minutes, which is equivalent to the longest cycle time for him or her receive the part or the service. It doesn't matter how quickly the rest of your line processes the operation. What matters is that your slowest operation becomes your bottleneck, and the customer has to endure that slowest operation or longest cycle time. I try to give some examples from non-manufacturing. This is an example of the freeway entrance that we have within the United States, and perhaps other places in the world as well. And they have come up with this waiting time apparatus which controls the influx of traffic onto the freeway. So you got the mirror light at certain hours. For example, in California, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they turn on the meter and they leave it on until 7, 8 o'clock p.m. or until the freeway traffic can allow them to turn it off. And the whole idea is the freeway should not have any bottleneck on it. The freeway should not be the bottleneck for people. If it's difficult to get onto the freeway for time being, is more acceptable than having traffic jam on the freeway. So that's one of the examples I could come up with. There are other examples. Sometimes you see on the freeway that the police car goes in front of all other cars and then maneuvers right and left and slows down, forcing the cars behind him to slow down. And reason for that is the police knows that there is an accident or traffic jam ahead, and he doesn't want the flux of cars go to that accident and stop over there. So instead of having so many cars going to the accident scene and stop, he's buying time. He's doing the waiting time model, and by slowing down the traffic, and by then hopefully the traffic and the accident has been cleared up, so that again police will disappear and the traffic will continue. Another example for multiple server queuing model is big stores or warehouses like Costco that we have in the US. As you see, there are several cashiers with several people helping you to pack or put the merchandise back into your cart. So they can serve the line, they can serve the queue as quickly as possible. And that's another one that customers will have the option to go to multiple servers, and the queue, which is a wait time, will be reduced, will be divided by 5 if you got 5 servers, versus if everybody has to go through the same entrance to get on the freeway, which was the previous picture for you. Here's another example at the airport. On the left, you see that there is a queue of people waiting in line for the airport or flight, the airline attendants to get the job done. On the right-hand side, they got the kiosk that the passengers can go and take care of the business. So when they get to the teller or get to the attendant, and most of the job is done, they just check in their luggage or what have you. So as a result, you see multiple servers that are automatic in this case, and we have used the technology to reduce the waiting time for the queue or for the line that we have. Tag time.
Hormoz, before you jump into tag time, there is a question that I think is worth asking,
Sure,
if
sure.
if possible. The question is, do Kaizen ideas mostly come from process owners?
Ideally, it should come from process owners. But in some of the companies, process owners have no right to say anything. We hire people and we tell them, this is what we want you to do, and please do it and check in and check out. And we don't motivate them, we don't encourage them, we don't expect them to come up with any Kaizen ideas. For example, there was a report which I read a few years back. It said every Japanese team member turns in something like 100, 120, 130 Kaizen ideas per year. It means that if they are working 250 days, every other day they come up with a Kaizen idea. Now, contrast this with the number of Kaizen ideas that we get from our people in the US. It was less than a one Kaizen idea per year. Per year. Now, this is no indication that we don't have any Kaizen ideas. The only indication is that since we are not expected to come up with any ideas, we are not regularly and constantly promoted for this concept of Kaizen. Therefore, we don't come up with ideas. But the question is right. The process owners are as close as possible to the Kaizen, to the Gemba, so they, by definition, by default, they have the best of ideas if we require them to turn them in, if we encourage them to turn them in. One of the trips that I had, maybe this is a place for me to mention it, one of the trips that I had to Japan, and that was for my own training, to train me in the early years when I started working for Toyota, was several team members and team leaders presenting to the plant manager and the general manager of the factory. And that was an automotive part manufacturing company. And the presentation was, and I was being translated by the interpreter, that the information which was being shared, the presentation was about the Kaizen, which this particular team leader did, which improved the distance by 2.5 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters. This is less than an inch for our American friends. This is less than an inch of improvement that this particular person did, and the plant manager and the general manager and along with 13 other people were sitting over there and admiring this huge contribution to the organization. I told to myself, what is 2.5 centimeters of improvement? It's nothing. Now, it's nothing if you don't understand what Kaizen is all about. It's nothing, and that's exactly why you get less than one Kaizen idea from your team members per year. But it is everything if you promote it, if you ask them to explain it to you, if you share the knowledge with everybody else so they learn how to improve 2.5 centimeters. Because if you do 2.5 centimeters savings in movement and you are producing 550 units per shift and you are working 3 shifts, this is a few miles of distance that you saved. It is no longer 2.5 centimeters. And that's the beauty of having the process owners come up with Kaizen ideas. That was a good question. Let's go to tag time. Takt time, as I mentioned, there's a customer's pull rate or demand rate for one or more units. In other words, if the customer says that I want a spare tire at the rate of every 10 minutes, the takt time for that spare tire becomes every 10 minutes, is the rate that you would have to produce your takt time. Now, your job is to make sure your cycle time, the time that it will actually take you to produce that one tire, is equal to or less than 10 minutes. I say less than because you want to have some breathing room just in case there are some anomalies that you will have to deal with to make sure that the customer is protected. Your job number one always is to protect the customer. Now, if the customer says, I want 4 tires in 10 minutes, your takt time remains at 10 minutes. Your cycle time is 10 divided by 4 now. It means that every 2.5 minutes, you have to produce a tire, so in 10 minutes you have 4 tires to give it to the customer. I hope this clarifies the issue because I see a lot of people struggling with this concept of takt time and cycle time, and some of the companies I have gone to for consulting, I see that they measure cycle time and they call it takt time, which is not the case at all. Takt time is dictated to you by the customer. Has nothing to do with your capability or machine cycle time and etc. The time that the customer expects or needs a unit to be available to him or her is called takt time. And it has a formula. And the formula is available time divided by number of units that the customer needs. Example is that if you have 7.5 hours, multiply by 60 minutes, multiply by 60 seconds per hour, and you need 550 units per shift in 7.5 hours, then your takt time becomes 49 seconds. It simply means you better be capable of producing a part every 49 seconds or less, otherwise your customer will run out of parts, which is a no-no in manufacturing or in any service-oriented business as well. The goal is to lower the cost, but you have to understand you got value-added work and you got non-value-added work, which is auxiliary, or non-value-added work, which is pure waste. Value-added is something that a customer is willing to pay for. Non-value-added is something that is necessary, but does not necessarily add any value. For example, shipping or conveyance is something that is necessary. You cannot make your parts in China and then somehow miraculously get them to the US. You have to transport them to US. But that transport is necessary but not adding any value. And non-value added, that is pure waste, is something that you should not do at all. And those are the things that you will have to tackle first and before you go to auxiliary work. These are the work that you do, but the customer does not even see it. Customer does not even require it. Customer does not even need it. And you still do it because you have been doing it for the past 10 years or whatever the logic might be. But there are different types of muda. We call them 7+1. 7 of them come from Toyota. The last one, underdeveloped team members, is something that we use at Get Kaizen. But there are different types of muda: overproduction, inventory, waiting, conveyance, rework, overprocessing, motion, and underdeveloped team members, which I have explained in the other episodes, and I try to get to the case study so you can see. In order to reduce the lead time, which is a time that the customer sees or customer is kept waiting until the part or service is delivered, you need to make sure that you improve the bottlenecks, you find out exactly what the pain points of the organization is, and you focus on those. And this is the graphic way to look at the lead time, you can see that the lead time could be the section between issuing the Kanban and delivering to shipping at the top, or it could be the longer lead time between the time the order from the customer was taken, was received, until the part or service was delivered on the right-hand side of the screen. And how do you do it? You have to really identify the non-value added, try to reduce the non-value added first, then try to make the value added more efficient. Go over the 8 different types of muda, eliminate muri. Muri means the difficulty or complexity that the team members have to go through, physically they have to go through in order to get the job done. Mura is unevenness or discrepancy within your organization. Improve the flow, eliminate unnecessary packing. As you see, McDonald's has eliminated a lot of unnecessary packing. It used to be that the hamburgers were wrapped, and the wrap was put inside a box, and they would put it on the paper and then on the tray. But now that you see, this is not the case at all because of the cost and also because of the fact that it would take labor and cycle time. Reduce the paperwork and utilize the most efficient delivery method. This is an example of waiting line characteristics. We are getting close to our case study, so it's important for you to go through this thing. This is a car wash example. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the population of dirty cars coming from a variety of locations, different size and different addresses and different places at different rates they come in. But everybody, all the cars and trucks line up inside the queue in the middle of the picture. Then they will go through the car wash, and then they come out and they will go to different places. This time they will go at the same rate because everybody comes out after the same cycle time is endured inside the car wash.
Hormoz, I have a question about cycle time and takt time. Is this an okay time to ask?
Yes, you can ask it, yes.
The question is, what is the best way to adjust your cycle time to takt time? And then I'm assuming he means after eliminating mudas. He says that in there. I'm not sure if that's a part of the question or not.
Right. The best way to adjust cycle time and takt time, number one, the objective is to have cycle time equal to or less than, very marginally less than your takt time. Because if it's too much less than the takt time, it means that you are having a lot of idle time, you lose time, and you lose money. If it is a little bit longer than your takt time, it means that your customer will experience back orders. The best way to adjust these two is to find out exactly what is comprising the cycle time. A portion of it is value added, a portion of it is non-value added. Get rid of the non-value added if possible, or reduce it if it's not possible. For example, trucking is not yet possible to be eliminated altogether, but taking the best route is possible. So you can take a different route to reduce the cycle time of your transportation, which is non-value added, but absolutely necessary right now. I hope I answered it. If you require more clarification, please turn in another question. In lean logistic, there are several examples that you have single server and single phase. It means that there is only one server. In this case is an example of a dentist office at the top of the page. Patients in the blue circles are lining up in the queue. They wait in the waiting area. They are called in to the dentist office one by one, and they are seen by single server, single phase, who is the dentist, and then after they receive the service, they depart the facilities. Second example is single server but multi-phase system, which I use McDonald's. McDonald's people are coming at different rates, different times, and they require different items. However, they still have to go to one line. There is one queue line, and in the drive-through, you will have to place an order and pay, and then pick up the order at the second window. So you got multiple phase system, one to place an order and pay, or you can actually have multiple phases. Phase one, place an order through the iPhone. Phase iPhone, I mean the PA system. Phase two, pay for your order, and phase three, receive your meal. So it is single server, but multiple phase. The banks or post office, you can experience the multi-server and single phase, meaning that you get is one queue line, you get to a point that is a dotted line that you see, then they call you to different windows or different tellers, and you will go over there and different tellers will serve you. However, there are multiple of servers, still one line and one single phase system. Everybody will have to go through the same queue. And in some colleges, when you want to go through the registration, you got the queue, phase number one, channel one, phase number two, channel two, and then respectively they will go to phase number two, channel one, and phase number two, channel two before they depart. So this is multiple servers and multi-phase system. Just wanted to let you know. Now, if there are any questions before I dive into the actual case study, I can entertain the questions right now.
I don't have any questions right now. I'm not sure if you want to give it a couple seconds to give people a chance to type if they have any questions.
Yeah, we can do that. But in this actual case, I try to demonstrate perhaps the majority of the information that I shared in the first hour, maybe in next 15 minutes or so, how we implemented and what was the problem, what was the deliverable, and what was the benefit that we harvested as a result of doing the lean logistic within the organization that I worked in Northern California. Okay, let's get started. If there is a question, then I stop and answer the question.
I will interrupt you.
Yes.
I will interrupt you if there is a question.
There are 5 different locations in this particular slide. One is the raw material supplier. Second one is the first phase of operation, which is injection molding. After the part are molded, are sent to paint line to be painted. After they are painted, they are sent to assembly, and then assembly gives it to shipping, and shipping sends it to the customer at different rates. Now, go over the details. We will see that the raw material supplier is sending a truck 8 times a day directly to the injection molding facilities. So 8 times a day, we would receive a truck which was a milk run, which had different materials at different portions and different pallet size and etc., arriving at the injection molding. Injection molding would turn those plastic resins into parts which needed to be painted, and at the rate of 16 times per day, which was being shipped to the paint line. Now, all the locations were about within a mile from one another. So we are not talking about statewide trucking, this is very close to one another. So 16 times a day, truck would go to paint line and carry parts that they were molded to paint line to be painted. Paint line would have to do its own trick, paint the part, and send it to the assembly at the rate of 16 times a day again. An assembly would assemble it and ship it. Assembly and shipping were right next to each other, and actually shipping would take place out of assembly facilities in this particular case, and ship it to the customer. And depending upon the type of products, door panels would go in sequence, were built in sequence, and were shipped in sequence at the rate of 10 times per day, 10 different trucks. Other non-sequence parts were shipped to the customer, ABC company, at the rate of 23 times per day. As you see, it's a very, very complex situation, very intense number of shipments. You don't have any margin of error. You don't have any possibility of making mistake. I didn't hear you. I didn't know what to ship. The machine didn't work. None of those reasons would really apply to this particular situation. The scenario that we had was that we had 5 distinct locations that parts had to travel among these locations. We had a total of 73 trucks or shipments per day. 73 shipments per day. The total tag time for the product that I had in mind was 53 seconds per car that our customers would build. 53 seconds per car. Again, you don't have that much time to goof around or make mistakes or even correct your mistakes. The pickup or drop-off window for shipping was, or receiving, or changeover time was 15 minutes. So a truck would come in, it would have to get unloaded in 15 minutes. Or the next truck would come in and had to wait on the street, and then the domino effect, and everybody would be late. And the time allowable for errors was about 7 minutes. So we had about 7 minutes between the shipments for us to take it a little bit longer than normal, and etc. One thing that I'm reminded over here, which I like to pause and explain, the difference between profitable airlines and non-profitable airlines that are sitting on the verge of the bankruptcy. It's not that profitable airlines are twice as fast and twice as smart and twice as efficient, and non-profitable airlines are not very smart. The difference is what Southwest identified, and he said that I did not buy the planes to stay on the ground. So as a result, the changeover time for Southwest is very quick. It's about 15 minutes. So they got multiple stops, so their planes are almost always full. And when they land, they have about 15 minutes to load and unload and clean the plane. The aircraft has 15 minutes to stay on the ground, and it will take off again. Other airlines that are not profitable, I guess, haven't figured out yet. They think that they purchased the multi-million-dollar planes so they can have them on the ground at the airports, which exactly is the reason why they are on the verge of the bankruptcy. So the goal was to streamline the operation, logistics, and production to make this happen, to make sure that the entire process, entire logistics would work like a Swiss watch, smoothly, regularly, day in and day out. Some of the challenges that we had, we only had one dock available per building. We didn't have multiple docks that multiple trucks could go and load and unload. which was a big challenge. Another challenge, if we were late to the customer site, we could not unload at the dock. And that would create its own problems because we would have to have somebody over there to unload the truck by forklift, which was very time consuming. But we had to do it to make sure that the customer was protected and customer wouldn't run out of parts. Another challenge was multiple location production management was very, very difficult. Excuse me. Many production bottlenecks existed within the production, and it was very costly if we missed the shipment to the customer. And as a result, I'm sure you can tell that it was very stressful if we couldn't get it done correctly. Some other challenges, we had to load the truck as last out, first in, meaning that if racks number 5, 6, 7, and 8 were produced and finished by the assembly line, we couldn't load 5, 6, 7, 8 as they were given to shipping because the customer would want to see rack number 5 coming out of the truck first. So we had to wait for all 4 racks to finish, and we would load rack number 8 first, 7 second, 6 third, and number 5, the last one, which would come out at the customer site in the right order. So that was another bottleneck that we had, another challenge. And virtually, we had no room for mistakes or mishaps, about 7 minutes. And we had multiple customers and similar situation with all those customers. The cost of committing the cardinal sin, and cardinal sin in manufacturing is stopping the customer's line, stopping the customer's production, was about $70,000 a minute. It's not 7,000, it's $70,000 a minute was the damage that the customer would incur as a result of us delivering late or shutting down the customer. So that's why the stress was there. But here is the graphic. As you see, the green subject plan is in the middle, is giving parts to customer number 1 on the left-hand side, top left-hand side, which was out of California. Number 2 is out of California, and some of them were even out of the United States. Customer 3 out of the city, and customer number 4 was the one which was about 30 minutes away. And we were the second tier on some products to ABC company, and we were the first tier of the rest for ABC. And as a result, we had to ship multiple shipments to ABC, which was half an hour away from us, in the right sequence, right order that ABC would require us to do. The countermeasures that we implemented, and we were able to do this for the 20 years that I worked with them, was that we improved the throughput rate by improving the cycle times. Cycle times, the question earlier was how do we improve it? We divide cycle time, and we see a portion of it is value added, that we need to make it more efficient. Another portion is non-value added, that it has to be reduced or eliminated altogether. We improve quality, so we will have larger quantity of parts that are sellable to our customer. So as a result, the yield was improved. We had the material handler load the next truck versus having to wait for the truck driver to arrive. And based on that, we avoided the domino effect, meaning that if the truck is late, then unloading the truck and loading the next truck will be late. If that is late, the truck will be arriving late at the customer, and so forth and so on, which will jeopardize the customer's assembly line. But as a result of having the cross-training, our material handler for manufacturing material handler was able to load and unload the truck without having the truck driver present. We assigned about 3 hours on the third shift so we could receive materials, even though we had very limited dock time and dock space, but we utilized the third shift. We had few skeleton crew on third shift, and we asked them to unload and receive the raw materials from our suppliers. And we identified and rectified the rest of the bottlenecks within the process. As a result, we made it more easily manageable for the logistics to take place. We also developed several contingency plans, or Plan B, we call it. One, for example, if the big truck had a problem, mechanical problem, or was late, we devised a Plan B to deliver a few parts via the pickup truck, and we used the pickup truck several times as a result of having the traffic jam on the freeway, or freeway was flooded, or what have you. And pickup truck could take the back roads, something that the big truck could not. We devised a manual processes in case the machine was down because of the mechanical issues. So we had ultrasonic machines and handheld ultrasonic machines that we could do by hand. And we also cross-trained all the team members so they could perform different jobs and different responsibilities in case we had some absenteeism or tardy people coming to work. If there is a question I can entertain right now, otherwise I would like to go over the summary.
There isn't a question specifically. Somebody asked if the presentation was available for download. I responded that the recording of the webinar will be available after the webinar, and we can email the link out.
Okay, very well. Now, in summary, you should be value-oriented at all times, meaning that you should only do what is perceived as value by your customer. So you really have to be in close contact with the customer, and then you need to pick their brain regularly and find out exactly what makes them tick. What is it that customer considers value, and do that and that only. Conduct value stream mapping and question all operations. Don't assume just because this has been done this way for past 10 years, that's the way it should be done. Everything that you see within the process has value, is important. Flow is critical. You have to identify the bottlenecks and then fix them to make sure that the flow of people, materials, and information takes place smoothly and ongoing on a regular basis. Flow could be one-piece flow or continuous flow, and you would want the factory or your operation or your bank or your restaurant to have a continuous flow, so there is no stop and go type of process within your organization. Bullet number 4, allow the customer or the market to pull from you. Don't make it unless you can sell it right now. If you cannot sell it right now, don't make it hoping that it will sell in the future. So as a result, you reduce the inventory or even eliminate inventory. One of the places that I worked, we had 4 days worth of inventory when I started. We reduced it to 2 days, 1 day, 4 hours, then 1 hour safety stock. And then even that 1 hour safety stock was eliminated altogether. And the reason we had safety stock was in case we lose power. We eliminated the 1 hour safety stock by acquiring generators, power generator. So just in case we lose the power, we can always rely on the generator to produce. And as a result, we saved a lot of space, something that is very, very expensive in some part of the country, especially in California. And the last one is eat, breathe, and sleep Kaizen. Expect yourself to do it a little bit better tomorrow, and expect your people to contribute with their ideas, with their brain muscle, as well as their other muscles that they're using at work. Don't assume they don't have good ideas. Encourage and put it part of their appraisal apparatus that they are required to come up with so many Kaizen ideas per week, per month, per day, and etc. And at the end, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this webinar. I've got two offers that I would like to mention to you. One, that we have some fund for training qualifying companies, so you can, about the Kaizen and continuous improvement and being more effective and more efficient. So there is an application that the link will be sent to you, and you can fill it out and send it to us, and we will figure out whether or not your organization qualify for this funding, so you can enjoy some of the training and projects free of charge almost.
Hormoz, before you go on to the second gift you have, if you have your browser in full screen, if you get out of full screen on the right hand toolbar there where chat was available, you should see a section that says pop-ins, and then you should see a place that says application form, and then there's a big yellow button that says get started. If you click on that, it will not interrupt the webinar. You can continue listening in. It will open another tab, and on that tab you will see a form that you can fill out with all the information that Hormoz requires to evaluate your company, and it will be submitted to him instantly. So you can get started on that while he's finishing up here.
Okay. Yeah, the application is very short, and it has some information that I can figure out whether or not your corporation, your organization will qualify for this funded training. And the second offer that I have for you is a thorough lean assessment or value stream mapping of your operation by our experts. And you can secure your appointment, and depending upon what the size of the organization is, and regardless of what the cost of the assessment will be, the entire cost will be credited back to you when we are hired to make the improvements possible. So we will come in and we will do the lean assessment. We will give you a report, and if you decide to hire, get Kaizen, or implementing the improvement ideas, then the entire cost of value stream mapping will be credited back to you.
Hormoz, can they notify you by filling out the same form if they're interested in getting a VSM, an assessment done?
They can do that, or I just put my email at the end of at the bottom of the screen, and you can simply send me an email and let me know about your organization, and we can get in touch.
Okay, one last question that I personally have is, if somebody that is listening now or is listening to the recording after the fact is interested in continuing their lean education on a personal level, not necessarily through their company, how would they be able to get started with that? Is that something that Get Kaizen can help with, or not?
Yes, actually, right now we are doing executive coaching with quite a few individuals, and we are doing that individually at their leisure or free time that they have. And that executive coaching has the real time examples similar to what the webinar was all about. However, is going at the pace that the individual requires. So if you don't want to go with your company, you can always contact us, and we can set up something that you can be trained in the areas that you think you need it. One thing I'd like to ask is, what I like to add is that the guaranteed employment is gone, is long gone. Guaranteed employment is no longer valid. However, guaranteed employability still exists. But if you like to remain employable, then it's very important to upgrade your skills on a regular basis.
Well, along the same lines, here at CXO Roundtable, we will have further discussions on Lean and Kaizen and other topics as well. If you have suggestions on the topics that you're interested in, you can reach out and let us know. And I know Hormoz also is scheduled to be with us for another few sessions. And you just keep an eye on your email, and we'll reach out and let you know what's going on and what we have coming up. Other than that, just in the next few minutes, if you have any comments, if you have any questions for in general or specifically regarding the topics that Hormoz discussed, go ahead and put them in the chat box. I encourage you to go ahead and fill out the form so that we can Hormoz can continue to help you with your situation, because I've seen time after time that people listen to the information but do not take action necessarily, and it makes it very difficult to. It's basically a waste of time. So it's the onus is on you to follow up and take action from this point forward. Hormoz, any parting thoughts while we wait to see if anybody has any questions?
Well, it was a pleasure to do this webinar. I'd like to thank everybody who attended the webinar and our future audience that they will listen to the recording of this webinar. I also wish to thank you, Jamak, for facilitating and moderating this webinar. I certainly hope that people will put it to work, find value in it. There are a lot of parts that may or may not apply to your business directly. And the time to sort them out is not now. When there is a time for webinar, I want you to absorb everything, and later on you can always say that this part of it is not applicable to my business, and then you can throw it out at that point. But logistic is something that is applicable to all businesses. And even if you don't have any outside vendors, everything is happening within your building or under the same roof, the internal logistic is quite applicable to your organization as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mogarei, for your time and expertise. I'd like to end this webinar now. I don't see any other questions. Thanks to all the attendees for your attention. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.